Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 14. Don't need translation, no? Everybody? Don't need any translation.
Est-ce que quelqu'un a besoin d'une traduction en français?
Non.
Tasmadakena manasa
Tasmadakena manasa
Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada Tasmatakena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada Tasmatakena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada Tasmatakena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada
Tasmadakena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada
Tasmadakena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada
Tasmadakena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada
Tasmadakena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada
Mataji's.
Tasmadakena manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi Shrotavya Kirtivyascha Deyat Pujyascha Nityada
Tasmat, therefore, Ekena, by one, Manasa, attention of the mind, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Sattvatam, of the devotees, Patihi, protector, Shrotavyaha, is to be heard, Kirtitavyaha, to be glorified, Cha, and Jayaha, to be remembered, Pujaha, to be worshipped, Cha, and Nityada, constantly. Translation. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. In response, please. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. If realization of the absolute truth is the ultimate aim of life, it must be carried out by all means. In any one of the above mentioned castes and orders of life, the four processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering, and worshipping, are general occupations. Without these principles of life, no one can exist. Activities of the living being involve engagement in these four different principles of life. Especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. A man from a social status from any social status becomes a well-known man in human society within a very short time if he is simply glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspapers. Sometimes political leaders of a particular party are also advertised by newspaper propaganda, and by such a method of glorification, an insignificant man becomes an important man within no time. But such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good, either for the particular man or the society. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there are no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. The actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifested before us. We have broadly discussed this fact from the beginning of the Janmadhya Asya shloka of this Bhagavatam. The tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being, and that will bring happiness. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Tadamayam Dadati Swadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sarjatam Sahadana Rajnatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Bhaktam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Sra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is one of a series of verses in this second chapter of Bhagavatam, which ultimately it explains the whole process of devotional service, right up to, I think it's 22 or 22, at least 21. So they're very important verses. You know, the philosophy has been expanded and expanded to answer so many questions that we may have. But basically there's not a lot to understand. It's just a matter that we have to, you know, become freed from our conditioning and misconceptions. So therefore things are elaborated on in Srimad Bhagavatam to make it very, very clear. And the previous verse, it's explaining that, you know, attack Bumbaya Dvidashastas Vanashrama Vibhagasha Svanasitasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. That, you know, all we have to do is please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the goal of life. And that's done through our work, by working for the Supreme Lord. But there's different consciousnesses, and so the quality of our work is governed by our conscious effort. That's why they call it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. You know, we should perform devotional service in Krishna consciousness. This is the whole point. The proper mood's there. And so I say this verse, which attacked Pumbaya Dviyasasas, Lord Chaitanya rejected it. Why? He said it's external. He was meaning that people can perform devotional service unconsciously, or they can, you know, they want so many things of the material world, so they'll do a bit of service, you know. So it doesn't really, and so we're coming further into it, how to expand on this particular verse 13. Life's activities should be, that's the goal, to work for Krishna instead of working for ourselves. But how we achieve that, you know, Krishna's blessing is by the mood of service. If somebody serves us without attention, we're not very satisfied. You know, I don't really want that service. It's like that, you know. But you know, so Krishna accepts it because it's a start. You know, if somebody comes and offers you something with heart and soul, then you're really happy, right? It's called in Ireland. I went to Ireland last week or week before, and they say if you do anything for anybody, do it with a heart and a half, full-hearted and a half. More than that, this is devotional service. You know, Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita, when we go to the temple, we shouldn't just take ourselves. On the way, we should get a flower or something. It's like a little bit extra. So that's the ongoing process of devotional service, even in the spiritual world. Even the gopis, like say, increase in their service. It's ever expanding. something which is eternal and unlimited, somehow or other it's ever expanding. So this is the nature of spiritual life. And this is something we can't really understand until we practice devotional service. In material consciousness, in material service, everything goes down until there's nothing left. And then we try something else until there's nothing left. Then something else till there's nothing left. And then there's nothing left. We're fried. And that's then we're a good candidate for devotional service. Yeah. The candidate for devotional service usually means I've had enough. I can't do it anymore. So, for this verse, all the Vedas are bringing us to this point. This is why we're supposed to follow the Vedas, and if we don't follow the Vedas, we consider the atheists, right? It means that we don't believe in the Vedas, we don't believe in the Supreme Being. So all the Vedas are gradually lifting people from one level to another. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna gave so many arguments, didn't he? And he was giving arguments from, Artha Shastra, Kuladam, what were the other? Anyway, different levels. What would you call that other one? Artha Shastra means we want to get something for what we're doing. Yeah, but we'll follow the Vedas. Kuladam means we've kept it in the family. It's the dharma of being in for generations. Why are you doing it? I don't know. That's most people don't know. People, you go to the temple, the Hindu temple, and you ask them what they're doing, they don't know what they're doing it for. It's just a ritual. Is it? And then they wonder why all the young people who ask questions, and they can't answer them, they actually start leaving it. Unless a person's intelligence is satisfied, you can't actually go on. So this is why Prabhupada wrote so many books. And we were talking, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, what's piety? What's piety? He says piety is performing one's duty, which it says in that previous verse, according to Shastra. That's piety. And what's impiety? Well, one is that you don't perform your duty, but also performing your duty, but you don't shift. You stay at that level. If you stay at that level and you don't move up, that's impiety. So, in other words, everything in this world is impious. It's only when we connect it with Krishna, but Krishna gives us a chance to actually come to different levels of impiety. And then we can come to real piety, which means that we start to render some service. So we accept service because we're following Shastra. So all the Vedas like this, it says, in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it's all about, Krishna. It's called Purushottam, the actual chapter is called Purushottam Yoga, is it? Purushottam Yoga. Purushottam means the Supreme Person. So yoga of the Supreme Person, but it's explaining about the super soul level of understanding. And, from verse 12 through to verse 16, it's like that, the super soul. What Sarvasya Chaham Hridisani Vishto is in the heart. I remember Prabhupada, he was giving a class about the Lord in the heart. And when he'd finished this, one person asked the question, is he in the heart or in the region of the heart? And Prabhupada said, are you a medical man? He says, he's in the heart, that's all you need to know. Left hand side, right hand side, it doesn't matter. So, it's like the first level of understanding is that Krishna's that, there's a supreme, it's everywhere, but then verse 15 starts to explain how it's in the heart. And then eventually it comes to the Tri-Sloki Shastra, which mentions, position of the fallen soul, Aksha and Shara. One's fallen, one is actually in the spiritual world. Then it mentions the super soul, and then eventually in the last one it mentions Purushottam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the point I'm making is that, it's a long way to a pure devotional service. It's a long way to come to where, I don't say where we're at. I mean, everybody, some might be on the platform of pure devotional service, But it's a long way to come to the platform of rendering service to Krishna with some understanding. And this is why hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is so powerful, because it's clarifying and purifying in the heart. Every day, clarifying and purifying. And we don't realise it. It's like undermining the foundations of our material existence. Somebody digs under a house, for some time it won't make any difference, will it? It'll still stay, then all of a sudden, then it'll completely collapse. And so this is what Srimad Bhagavatam's doing. Nasta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utama slokya bhaktir bhavatinai sakhi. If we regularly hear, then, we'll get the result. Do you believe that? Does everybody believe that?
Yes.
Are you sure? You probably heard the story of, we're talking about hearing now. It says in here, Shrotavya, Shrota. Shrota Kirtitavyascha. Jaya means meditation. So these three things, one should constantly do these things. So it starts with hearing, right? Shrota. I forgot what I was going to say now about Shrota, but I'm going to say something about Shrota. Constantly hearing, yes. All right, and so this Tri-Sloki Shastra is bringing us to that point. Then in Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj, he says, Komaram Archaret Prajna. We should be hearing from the day we are actually able to hear. And Parikshit Maharaj even heard before he was born. He heard in the womb. This is how important it is. He says, from the very tender age of childhood, what you perform devotional service, giving up all other activities. And a little bit of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. That's quite a statement. Who's performed a little bit of sincere devotional service? Put your hands up. Nobody. We're not sure, are we? We've got so much going off up here. We're not sure. Maybe. I'm not sure. Anyway, we're trying one day, it's like when we're chanting those rounds, isn't it? Sometimes we're all over the place, aren't we? Well, all we've got to do is chant one sincere mantra. One perfect mantra, that's enough. And then we don't have to chant anymore, right? If we chant one perfect mantra, if we hear one perfect mantra, we'll never want to stop chanting. I remember it was Burijan actually. He was in Tokyo, he was in Japan, and he was chanting his round, walking up and down, and Prabhupada was there. And all of a sudden he saw the whole spiritual world while he was chanting. So that's what he wrote in his book anyway. And Dayananada Maharaja said the same thing. He was walking with Prabhupada and he was chanting away. And he just saw the whole spiritual world and looked at Prabhupada. And Prabhupada just smiled at him, Yes. That's what you can get by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So we should knock on, don't delay. And and the third verse, he says that to his school friends, my dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived by reference to the contact with the material sense objects can be achieved in any form of life, automatically, just as we receive pleasure automatically and we receive distress automatically. What does that mean? That means we're wasting this time in this material world, isn't it? Everybody's striving to get more and more and more, and they're already going to get so much. So if you think, well, wait a minute, if I'm going to get so much happiness and so much distress, why should I actually endeavour anymore? It's going to come anyway. So, this is the first instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, we have to tolerate, is it? Matra spashasta kantiya, shitashna sukadukha. The heat, and tolerate all situations, tolerate what good karma we get, what bad karma we get, and what do? We just get on with trying to serve Krishna. Put our heart and soul into serving Krishna. And then when we put our mind into constantly serving Krishna, we're actually not in the material world. We forget the body, it says. And if we forget the body, then we can go back to Godhead. This is the whole process. Okay. So that hearing process, in Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter it says transcendental knowledge, telling us how we can get transcendental knowledge. And it says, we can build dharmshalas, give charity, so many things we can do. Study Shastra, perform tapasya, meditate, what else? Become a brahmachari and just study Shastra, become a grihastha and learn how to give charity. It mentions so many ways. And then at the end of it, what does it say? It says, but if we're fortunate, we can hear. Just by hearing. Then again, in the 13th chapter, same thing. It goes through, seeing the super soul everywhere, and learning the process of doing that. He says, but you can forget all that if you just hear. So everything's taken care of. So this is Shrotavya. Nectar instruction. It says that, I think it's in the 8th verse, it says that, what does it say? It says, Shravanadas. What's Shravan? Shravan's hearing, isn't it? Shravanadasa. Yeah? It says if just by Shravanadasa we can come to eventually to Varanadasa. And Varanadasa means what? It means we accept. In the beginning, we're not so sure. Yeah, and we're asking so many questions. And eventually we come to the point, I'm going to go for it, right? We're actually convinced, and we start to relinquish material. Everybody started to do that to some degree. But eventually we'll just relinquish everything and be fully focused on devotional service. Varanadasa. And from Varanadasa being focused, we get Smarana Vasta. Smarana, this is the last one with Jaya, Smarana Vasta. The different levels of meditation on Krishna. Has anybody recognised which level they're on yet? First one is sometimes we remember Krishna. Who's on that level? Usually, we go through the school of hard knocks. I'll get this right if it's that thing I'll do. And then we come to, I can't do it, I can't solve it. And then we, Hare Krishna, ask Krishna for help. But then eventually we'll start to, remember Krishna more. And then we'll be constantly remembering Krishna. So these are different stages of remembrance. First there's intermittent remembrance, then there's constant remembrance, then there's meditation, like that. Become meditative. And then when we're meditative in our service, then it doesn't matter what happens, we're focused. And then comes samadhi. And when we're in samadhi, then we can understand our constitutional position. What's it called? Anybody remember? Sampati das. Sampati. So yeah. Shravana das onwards. So we're here with the mind. It's the mind that matters. Everything should be heard with the mind. There's different levels of hearing, isn't there? We hear with we just hear the sound in the background. That's the first level. There's something like the Maha Mantra going on in the background, and we hear it. That's the first stage I went through. I was chanting, but I don't think it was a full Maha Mantra somehow, But still, Krishna actually gave me some benefit. And then we actually hear it in the background, right? But there's other things going up as well. And then the mind's focused on this is what we want. The mind focused on the Maha Mantra. This is called manana. When we hear something in class, has anybody heard something in class and it's just stuck? And you've just remembered it. Probably not remembered anything else for weeks, and then all of a sudden something sticks without having to go up. Yeah? It's already just me. I bet it's not very often it happens, but I can remember times it has happened, I remember one class I was here in, so he said, Svartate, he was Christian Dharma in mind, he said, Svartate Gatim He Vishnu. And this means that we should, the goal of life is Vishnu. And it just like, I could remember the verse like that. How is it possible? Because I was like that. I was like focused. This is all this, it's a matter of focusing on what we're hearing. I remember there's one devotee, we used to Govinda Maharaj, he had an associate who knew him well, called Dr. Fakir Mohan. He may have been here sometimes, he used to travel. And I had the good fortune to, do some service for him while he was at Bhaktivedanta Manna. But I noticed when I was watching him, he was like, he was a qualified person. He was the head of a Sanskrit college all his life. He was a brahmachari all his life, although he wore white. He was so humble. And when you spoke to him, he just spoke about Krishna. And he was in class, and there's somebody from the ashram giving class, and he sat there, and he's like this. So this is what it means, he's got such a taste from hearing. He's hearing the same things, but it's just like nectar. So that's what we want. Does anybody like to share one thing that they heard and they remembered it? I remember another one. Yena tena prakarina. Has anybody heard that verse? Yena tena prakarina. Krishna smara niveshaya. Sarva vidi nishedishu. Etayar eva kinkara. This devotee, it was Sridhar Maharaj actually. And not the one in Bhagavad, Sridhar Maharaj, ISKCON Sridhar Maharaj. And this means that somehow or other, Yena tena prakani. We have to remember Krishna. He says, and all Krishna smarana veshayat. Sarva vidi nishedeshu. Vidi means all the different instructions in the Shastra are servants of this one particular statement. Etayar eva kinkara. And so this is what this particular verse is speaking about. It's speaking about, hearing properly. All one's attention should be down to hearing. Shrinvatam svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana vidyantaksta abhadrani vidonoti satam. This will come a little bit later. They actually not in the heart. The anarthas in the heart are starting to be loosened by, and it says a seriously inquisitive student. A seriously inquisitive student. And how do we get that taste for hearing? Where's it coming from? Eh? By serving, yeah. Just by serving Krishna. We get a taste for hearing. And then all these lower, we come to the mode of goodness, all these lower qualities subside. And then we come to the stage where Dr. Fakir Mohan were at. He must have been on that level. It's Evam Prasanna Manasa. The mind becomes enlivened just by hearing. Evam Prasanna Manasa. Bhagavat Bhakti, just by hearing about it, Bhakti. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, one realizes, becomes realized in knowledge. Mukta Sangha Sujayate, and one becomes liberated. So this is a very important section of Bhagavatam. If we can remember this section, we'll remember the whole philosophy. What was next? Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha. So what's Kirtitavya? It means we should preach, right? We should preach Krishna consciousness. What happens when we preach? We may make a devotee, you never know. It seems like when you try to preach, it seems like it's hard work, you know. Prabhupada says it sweat gallons of blood to actually. But we should understand that that's to bring a person from nowhere to becoming a full devotee. But when we preach, we're actually affecting so many people. They'll never be the same again. When we go out on Harinam, they'll never be the same again. They've not seen anything like it before in their life. Where do they come from? That's the first thing I said when I saw the devotees. I couldn't work out where they came from, And yeah. And then the last one, Jaya. In the Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu, that verse I just quoted there, Yena Tena Prakarina. And so there's some nice verses also in the second chapter of Bhagavatam. What's that verse now? Anyway, it explains that I can't remember. There's one nice verse in the fourth chapter of Bhagavatam, and it explains the potency of hearing, the potency of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. And then 3 verses later, I think it says, Kirata Hundara Pulinda Pulkasa Abira Shamba Yavanaka Sadhya Ye Anye Tripapa Apashraya Shaya Tasmai Srubhadra Shravase Namo Namaha. No, that's the wrong one. It says, the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it works through the devotees. And it's so powerful that all these classes of living entities that I mentioned, Kirata, Hundara, Paulinda, Pulkasa, and everyone can become purified. What's Kirata? This is Kirata, I think they're the northern Tibet. They have a little piece of area, you know, like Chinese. You've seen those pictures. Kirata, Hundara, what's a Hundara? Not far from here.
Turks or something like that.
Eh?
I'm from Turkey.
No.
No.
Germany.
Yeah.
Hunna, the Huns. And Eastern Russia. Kirata, Paulinda. Who's the Paulindas? Further south in Europe.
Greeks.
Greece. The Greeks. Pulkasa, I don't know what they are. Abira, that's part of India. Shambhala. Yavana, who said that? Yavanas, what's the Yavanas?
Muslims?
Eh?
Yavanas are Muslims? Muslims?
Arabic.
From where?
Muslims?
Belgium.
No, Muslims.
Muslims. Eh?
Yavanas. Not
Yeah, they're Turks.
Yes.
The Turks. Kasada, no, it's the Kas. The Kasi, Kiratas are from Africa. The Kashi race are from Tibet or Nepal, that area. So these are all what they call antajas. An antaja means they're outside the Vedic system. They don't follow the Vedic rules and regulations. And therefore, you know, at that time there used to be powerful kings who used to rule in such a way that they supported the Vedic the Vedic way of life, and anybody who wouldn't follow that, they had to go outside, you know, to the other parts of the world which are not so hospitable. I once was in Russia, and I spoke to Vigama. I said, why would anybody want to live in Russia? You know, you couldn't even open the window, it was so cold outside, you know, like 30 degrees below or something. So you're stuck indoors all winter, you know. I couldn't understand why the Russians, when the summer comes, they all go away and leave their jobs and go on, you know, all summer they actually get out. Because 6 months are locked inside. I said, why would anybody want to live in Russia? He said, it's a mode of passion. I thought, what kind of answer is that, a mode of passion? And I walked away, scratching my head, you know. Then after some time I thought, oh, I know what it is. And then this is what I'm saying, is that the mode of passion means that you want to enjoy, isn't it? And so when you want to enjoy, it just becomes, you can't control it. Unless you control passion, it just increases, doesn't it? More and more. And so what happens is, you know, if you live in the Vedic society, you've got to control it, right? There's actually rules, you know, Varna, Shram, Dham. But if you're just, you know, a Vishayi, a sense gratificator, you know, you have to, they boot you out. That's what happened with the Kshatriyas, isn't it? Parashuram. They all fled. They have to live outside the Vedic system. So what's his verse again? Let's have a look. Oh, there's some more here, just a minute. So what do? We do the preaching. It's talking about, just like, you know, I don't know about in France, but in England they have many statues of great personalities. Do you have them in France as well, like Napoleon, things like that? Yeah?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Because we've got, you know, Nelson stuck on top of a column in Trafalgar Square, you know. And many, all around there, there's all, you know, great demons who are when you're looking at it, oh, I'd like to meet him on the dark night, but he's like Lord so-and-so. And so, they're all forgotten. Nobody knows who they are now. At that time, everybody thought, they were bowing down to them. And that's what happens. Everything you work for in this world, you'll lose it. Everything. There'll be nothing left. So, we might as well give it up now, right? We shouldn't go kicking. We should go. We should be a surrendered soul. So we don't want to be forgotten in history. Grandmother so and so, grandpa so and so, and then it's forgotten. But devotee is always famous, isn't he? He's famous throughout the three worlds, never forgotten. Like Prahlad Maharaj, when did he appear? Must have been some time ago, A long time ago. Would you like to be remembered in 5,000 years' time? Yeah? This is the fame of a devotee. Who wants to be remembered in 5,000 years' time? Put your hands up. Nobody. All humble devotees, that's why. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So, hearing, we'll come back to hearing, right? Who failed to hear? What does Bhagavatam say? Who's that person who failed to hear about Krishna?
Butcher?
A butcher, yeah. Or one who is killing the self. Does it mean just a butcher down the road? No, it means us. Butcher kills, right? So we're actually killing the soul. Prabhupada said in one purport, we can kill the soul to such a degree that there's no chance of self-realization. And that's in this Kali Yuga. We go out at night in the city. There's, it's just complete degradation. And during the day as well. Okay, we can stop there. So, Tasmatakena Manasa, Bhagavan Satvapati, Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha, Jaya Puja Nityada. Therefore, with one point of attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify and remember the personality of God, who is the protector of the devotees. So, is there any questions or any comments, any feedback? At this point, one devotee used to be on. He used to do it online, but it was also to a group. And at that point, he used to say any question, then he used to get his bead bag out and he'd start chanting. And everybody realised he's not gonna stop chanting until we ask a question. We're not going to get out of here unless we ask a question. So this Dr. Fakir Mohan, he always had a question. And when at the end of the class he said, please Prabhus, please ask a question. So, please Prabhus, please ask a question. Yep.
You said that the devotee Dayananada Maharaja and the devotee Gurujan Prabhu who were near to Prabhupada, and when they chanted they saw the spiritual world. So it is suggested to chant it near to a person who is realized, or can you speak about the benefit we have if you chant near to a person who has as a high consciousness? I'm curious about that. Sorry.
Well, that means everybody were walking about the temple room, going up to people, seeing how the rounds are going on, finding out. I think it's just Prabhupada's special mercy. A pure devotee can actually bestow his mercy. Krishna gives him a license to give Krishna consciousness, doesn't he? This is mentioned in the in the Madhuri Kadambini, how do we get bhakti? He says it's by the mercy of the person who's got bhakti. So he says that, you know, Krishna gives him, Krishna's obliged to it, his pure devotee, so when his pure devotee wants to share it, he'll give him his Kripa Shakti to do that. So, you know, if we please Krishna's servants, then Krishna will be pleased. Because the pure servant's non-different from Krishna anyway. He's got all Krishna, well, not all Krishna's qualities. He's the same in quality. So, you know, we can also give some kripa. We've got some mercy. Krishna's given us some mercy. We can pass that on to others. And that was the mood that Prabhupada wanted. He said, just just preach and give the mercy. And you know, there was a little Saraswati. They were having a meeting with some visitors, and she ran up. She was Shyamasundara's daughter. She ran up to one gentleman and pulled his trousers, and she said, "Do you know who Krishna is?" And he said, "He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead." No. And Prabhupada says, "See, even a child can preach." And nobody had seen Krishna in the West until Prabhupada came. Nobody knew who Krishna was. So yeah, if we please the spiritual master, we please our spiritual authorities, then that pleases Krishna and we can get the mercy. Anything else?
So you mentioned the stage of Shravana Dasha. So does the Shravana Dasha means just regular hearing, or there must be some qualification for that? Do we need to reach certain consciousness to be on the platform of Shravana Dasha, or we just open a book and we are already hearing?
That depends on you. I mean, if we're hearing with attention, the more, you know, it usually comes by purification. It says we cannot, one who's pure in actions can become pure in thought. And when we're pure in thought, then we can hear. So that's why, so this is saying that we're performing, kamana activities with the body. So these are pure activities because we're told to, sweep the floor, serve the devotees. But by, and then the mind becomes purified. And then we can actually hear. So it says, Shushusho Shwadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevayabhika Puniteta Nishevana. By serving those devotees who are free from vice, all vice, great service is done, and by that service we get an affinity for hearing about Krishna. This were a few verses back. It'll be 2 verses on to start to explain this point about how service purifies. So Bhagavad Gita says if we're not purified in action, and then purified in word, and then purified in thought, it says that what's it saying? Ihayasha dera, ihayasha. What is it?
Ihayasya hare dasi kamana manasa vira.
So kamana means body. Manasa means mind, gira means words. Kamana, manasa. Then, even while we're in the material world, we're actually in the spiritual world. So, when we're hearing, if we're hearing properly, we're not in the material world. We're hearing about the spiritual world, so we're there. When you talk about something, your mind goes there, right? and that's where your consciousness is. That's where you really are. Is it? So this is what it means to hear. We hear with attention, and gradually, you know, we can understand. We may be hearing something, and you know, we've got so many, you know, what do you call them? So many impressions on the mind. But when we keep hearing, we'll understand what we're hearing properly, and then our consciousness will be changed. Then our consciousness will be in the spiritual. But Prabhupada's given it us in the book. We just look at the pictures. It's like, you know, it's a brochure to the spiritual world, isn't it? If you want to go to Tenerife, or, you know, what is it, what is it in France, Nice, is it? Or Saint-Tropez. You know, you just get a brochure and you look, and you're there, aren't you? It's a lot cheaper as well. But you know, it's cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to stay here and just look at the brochure. But it's quite costly to go there. You know what I mean? We've got to surrender everything. Okay, Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Holiness Dayananada Swami Maharaj ki
Jai.
Just a quick announcement. Today is Ekadashi. There's also tomorrow is Varaha Dvadashi.
No. Vamana Dvadashi.
Okay, so tomorrow, because of tomorrow, we will be doing half day fast.
Today.
The fasting is today for tomorrow.
That's what I'm saying. Today.
Oh, because you said tomorrow.
Tomorrow is
Break the fast.
Today we fast.
That's a downer, isn't it? Everybody were getting ready, you know, saliva and thinking about Prasadam there. He actually mentioned it this morning.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Half day full fast. Devotees have health issues or elderly can eat, but if you want to get serious with your spiritual life, elderly, kids, medication, devotees, that's okay, but you can fast. So we would like to welcome some devotees from London, Giridhari Prabhu's family. Giridhari Prabhu's family has been Mataji. Announcement 1 minute and then you can talk. Giridhari Prabhu's family are here. They are very, very special to New Mayapur. They've been serving New Mayapur. Nobody knows them, I guess. Mataji is sitting at the back. Giridhari Prabhu is